Welcome to the Rancher's Voice, presented by the Montana Stockgrowers Association. I'm Jay Bodner, MSGA's Executive Vice President.
And I'm Raylee Honeycutt, Director of Natural Resources. Join us for conversations surrounding policy, the legislature, and issues that matter most to ranching families in Montana.
Welcome to this week's episode. This episode, we're going to talk a little bit about National Ag Week that we had last week. We're also going to talk about some of the MSGA priority bills that we'll be working on and have been working on. We're also going to be discussing the Board of Livestock and FWP commission meetings, and we're going to hit some of the legislative highlights.
Make sure to subscribe to the Rancher's Voice, follow us on social, make sure to like, share, and comment on each episode, and we'd love to hear from you, so email Kenny at keni@mtbeef.org.
This past week, it was a busy week. We did get to celebrate National Ag Week, and it's something that we're very proud of in Montana and as ranchers in Montana. We did have a busy week. We had a lot of activities, so I'll just touch into a few of those. I think for Montana Stockgrowers Association, we thought it was very important to highlight on our social media channels just the importance that agriculture plays in Montana and across the United States. Some of the highlights that we touched on were sustainability, the open spaces, nutrition, and really direct marketing opportunities. And so those are some of the things that we promoted. And so if you have an opportunity, take a look at that. In addition to that, we also did have the Taiwan Delegation here in great city of Helena. We did meet with Director General Daniel Chen and Vice Consul Ting Cheng, and they're with the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office representing the nation of Taiwan. We also had the opportunity to have lunch with them. We talked a little bit about Montana specifically and Montana products. Of course, we focused on beef, and it was pretty interesting to listen to a little bit about how they like their beef and their steak. He likes it medium rare, which I do also. Just kind of moving on, we did, the council did spend a couple of days. We did get an opportunity to sit with them on the House and the Senate floor where they were introduced by those chambers. And so that was exciting to kind of listen to that and be a part of that. We also did get to listen into the Senate Joint Resolution 9, and this reaffirmed the dedication to strengthening closer trade and cultural ties with Taiwan. And so that resolution was heard on the Senate floor. A big effort also now by Montana is to reopen our Taiwan office. And Montana did have previously had an office that was open, and that was closed in a couple of past administrations ago. And I think it will help us to rebuild that trade and move from number 5th to maybe number 1. In addition to that, we also were invited to an ag roundtable by Governor Gianforte. It included a lot of ag leaders across the state. We were also joined by Lieutenant Governor Juras, Mike Honeycutt with the Department of Livestock, and Mike Foster with the Department of Ag. And really, it was kind of the first time, I think, in a lot of years that we've been invited to the governor's office to talk specifically about ag. We did focus a lot of our efforts on just made in Montana. We'd like to increase that funding. We talked a lot about the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, meat processing, and really another one that's kind of generated is the intermodal hub needed for export markets. And so had a great discussion with that. And Governor Gianforte also, just to finish out the week, had an opportunity to visit with one of our members, Jake Fettis with Fettis Meats out in Manhattan country. And so thanks, Jake, for hosting the governor.
Yeah, it was a great week of celebrating agriculture, and it was many of the ag organizations did activities, and it was great to see such a great presence in and around the Capitol this last week. To jump in to give a quick update on a couple of MSGA's priority bills or activities, we wanted to first start off with the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab and provide an update on that. As we've mentioned before, it originally was part of House Bill 14, which is the Long Range Planning Bonding Bill. And I am happy to report that that bill was heard in House Appropriations this past week and did pass out of it. So the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab is part of that bill. However, with the current situation regarding COVID money in House Bill 632, the legislature, as you heard last week when we interviewed Senator Osmundson, they're kind of taking multiple routes to get to the same destination. And so the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab is also now included in House Bill 362, which is the bill that's being created for appropriations for the COVID relief money. The only difference is that in House Bill 362, only the Department of Livestock's portion of the vet lab is included as part of the COVID relief money, which is roughly $26 million. And so there are hearings occurring with 632, and it's part of the infrastructure package, but we'll be tracking both those bills. It's great to have the vet lab in both of those bills, and it's looking very optimistic for our industry and getting funding for that building. But to jump a little bit more into House Bill 632, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, or the COVID Money 2.0, the appropriations committees are meeting right now. They held meetings all of last week, and they're kind of breaking it into different sections. So there's different buckets in which this money can be distributed, and then within that, agencies have their own kind of lists that they have provided to the legislature to consider. And so, as I mentioned, the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab kind of falls under the infrastructure bucket of that funding, but then each of the agencies have their buckets as well. And so the committee is currently listening to each of the sections. Livestock, Ag, and Natural Resources falls under Section C. They're having hearings, presenting the projects that they would like to be funded. Stakeholders are coming in and testifying in support of the projects. And there's just a lot of action going on as it relates to money. It's very difficult to kind of track sometimes because things are moving so quickly and meetings are happening so quickly. And so there is a place on leg.mt.gov under the category called Revenue and Budget Information. And you click on the button that says All Things Fiscal, and that will break you into a category for House Bill 632. And so if any of you listening are interested in kind of taking a deep dive into what that bill looks like, and then all the additional amendments that break out the sections and different budgets, you can take a look in there and find out as much information as you want. There's a lot of information in there. And so that's kind of where all of this information surrounding House Bill 632 will be found. We also wanted to update you on House Bill 554, which is the National Heritage and National Trails Designation Bill that MSGA has been working on your behalf on this session. 2 weeks ago, the bill was heard in Senate Natural Resources, and this past week, the committee did pass the bill. There was a slight amendment that we worked with the bill sponsor on, adding some just language regarding timing of when the legislature would vote. But it did pass out of the committee on party lines, a 7-5 vote, and now is headed to the Senate floor, and we would anticipate seeing that hit the Senate floor for a vote this week. We're feeling really optimistic about it and looking forward to the watching the progress of this bill. And then the last bill, which is another MSGA priority bill that we haven't talked about yet, but quickly kind of popped up this last week for a hearing, was House Bill 660. We partnered again with Representative Josh Kazmaier, and this bill would provide $200,000 in funding for the biennium for the Made in Montana program, which is housed under the Department of Commerce for direct-to-consumer marketing. We have mentioned and lifted up this program in a variety of our testimonies this past year as it relates to meat processing or placarding. And we really feel like this is an easy solution in an existing program that can be kind of a plug and play, and let's really get some added value to our producers. And so the Made in Montana program's seen a 30% increase in small beef producers in this last year for people opting in to use their marketing program. And so right now, we feel like the program's underfunded. They only use about $12,000 a year for marketing. And so really getting them this injection of funding to really market the Made in Montana program and grown in Montana products is going to be a really great asset for our producers. This bill went straight to appropriations rather than having a hearing and, for example, House Ag or something like that, went straight to appropriations because there is dollars tied to it. And it did pass out of appropriations 20-4. So really excited to have such bipartisan support as that bill kind of moves through the session.
Yeah, and that really was a great bill and something that we've promoted, and it'll be great to be able to promote more Montana products out there.
And I should mention, if anybody is interested in the Made in Montana program, it's a free opt-in program. There's just a bit of paperwork that you do with the Department of Commerce, but anyone who has any beef products that you're interested in marketing and want that Made in Montana, Grown in Montana logo on your product, feel free, and we encourage you to reach out to the Department of Commerce.
So just a look at the week of March 29th, we will have the newly confirmed Board of Livestock appointees. They're going to hold their first meeting on Wednesday, March 31st, and that'll start 8 o'clock and probably run all day long. We do have some new board members on there, as I mentioned. So Gene Curry will be the current chair of that. Also, we'll have Alan Redfield and Jake Fettis. So we welcome the new board members to that. And the board members will be in person, but the general public will participate virtually. So if you are interested, you can get a hold of the Board of Livestock and get the link to participate in that. And we will participate in that meeting virtually. In addition to that, we'll have the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Commission. They'll be holding their first meeting on April 1st, and that'll be at 9 a.m. And we'll have Leslie Robinson on that commission. She is MSGA's current second vice president, and she will be one of the new commissioners on there also. We also will have... in that discussion, they'll be having some discussion on the elk plan, and one of our previous board members, Ed Fryer, I think will present some details on that elk plan. So once again, we will participate in that virtually, but if anybody has an interest, please tune in. Just a refresh of what happened last week on March 22nd, the week of March 22nd. We had Senate Resolution 88. This was to confirm the appointees to the Fish and Wildlife Commission. So that included Leslie Robinson, Brian Siebel, Casey Walsh, and Pat Tabor. We did support these nominations. I've known most of these individuals. I did get a chance to introduce myself to Casey Walsh, and provided just some brief comments in support of them. In addition to that, we had Senate Bill 136. This clarified permits and water right changes. So this dealt specifically with legal availability. This was in the House Natural Resources. It had a good hearing. We're just waiting on executive action for that. We also had Senate Bill 352. This is another bill that we did support. It's moved now into the House Natural Resources. It dealt specifically with who can object to a water right. So only those that hold a water right can object. And we want to make sure that we clarify that. We reduce legal costs to individuals that hold these water rights. So we think this is a really good bill. We're also waiting on executive action for this.
Yeah, and then as I mentioned, House Bill 660 had its hearing in appropriations and has passed out of committee. Additionally, we participated in House Bill 302, which is requiring county approval for bison relocation. That bill was heard in Senate Ag and is waiting executive action still. Senate Bill 307, which is about irrigator liability and really including and making sure that all irrigation infrastructure is included in limited liability. It also had its hearing and is awaiting executive action. So a very busy week in addition to all of the money conversations that we've been having and National Ag Week. So I think last week was a really great week for our organization.
Yeah, it certainly was. And so just kind of looking forward to this week, we're still looking at a number of bills to be scheduled. As we looked on the docket, there's not a lot yet, but we know that there's more coming. We're also just really following up on the executive action. We'd like to attend most of those committee meetings as they take executive action to really hear how the discussion goes and how the votes go on many of those. So we'll be updating you as those executive actions get taken. We also have an opportunity to host the MSU Collegiate Stockgrowers at the Capitol. So we're excited for that group to come to Helena, and we'll certainly walk them through how the legislative process works. We're going to have an opportunity to hopefully meet with some of the leaders at the legislature and maybe even have them participate in the hearing if it works out that way. So we look forward to hosting them. It'll be a great opportunity. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this week. If you like what you're hearing, consider joining our podcast.
Definitely. If you have ideas for interviews as well, we would love to hear from you. As the legislative session wraps up, I think we'll be diversifying our interviews and looking for folks who want to chat with us about all things Montana ranching. So thank you, our audience, for listening. Make sure to subscribe to The Rancher's Voice, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, and make sure to like, share, and comment on each episode. Again, you can email anything to us, questions or interview ideas at Kenny, KENI, @mtbeef.org. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.